Hi, I'm Greg LeBlanc, and I'm here at the Haas School with Mohammed Guller, who, in addition to being a Haas alum, is also the principal architect and engineering manager at Glassbeam, as well as the author of Big Data Analytics with Spark. Welcome, Mohammed.
Thank you, Greg.
So, Mohammed, you're in the open source world, and it seems like every month, or maybe every week, there's a new open source project that purports to do some new thing, solve some new problem, and then it starts spreading like wildfire, and like the next big restaurant, it gets forgotten and replaced or supplemented by the next big thing. Why are we seeing such a proliferation of these projects?
I think some of it is cultural, especially Silicon Valley. There's more open attitude to share stuff, and there are problems that people are finding they can't solve with the existing tools. So in the old days, people would try to kind of change their problem slightly so they could continue using the existing tools. Whereas today, there are companies, they have deeper pockets, they're willing to fund new projects, kind of go into new horizon and build something that was never built before. And at the same time, if it's not core to their business, they're actually letting their engineers open source it. And so somebody takes that and says, okay, I'm going to, if it becomes really popular, they build a company around it, and it just has a multiplier effect. Pretty much more and more companies are going the open source route, because the product that was built to solve a problem for them, they realize it's not really core, actually, so it's okay to open source it. The other thing that has happened is a lot of the commercial vendors, they've realized it's harder for them to compete against these open source projects. And so they are actually also open sourcing their tools. A good example is Greenplum. It was a proprietary data warehousing solution. For a long time, you had to pay a lot of money for it, and it started losing market share to, I'm assuming it was losing market share to all this open source data warehousing solution. They said, okay, why don't we just open source it? And I've seen that more and more companies doing it in recent times.
Yeah, I mean, you see it not just in storage and compute, you see it in Tesla kind of open sourcing many of their patents.
Right. Take machine learning, which is a pretty hot area. Google said, okay, we're going to open source our machine learning framework, TensorFlow. Facebook did the same thing. They had a machine learning library. They said, we're going to open source it. Apple is doing the same thing. So yeah, more and more companies, the building blocks that they are using, they're open source it so they can get. I think it also helps them actually get more users start using those things, and it helps, I guess, with their, from a PR angle, it helps them get more engineers, because a lot of people, it's a good way to actually spot good talent.
But does that mean it becomes increasingly hard to do analytics as a business? I mean, I understand Facebook, its business is its data, and so anything that they can do to improve their own analytics is good for them, regardless if it makes everybody else's analytics better as well. And so data is going to be a competitive advantage. But has analytics basically disappeared as a competitive advantage? Is analytics becoming commodified in the same way that storage was commodified in recent years?
The software piece of it, right, to some extent, but like you said, the core asset for Facebook is the data. So even if they open source the tool, you still don't have that data that Facebook has. Same thing with Google, right? We talked about Hadoop earlier. Hadoop basically came out of paper that Google published. So they took their technology, wrote a paper on that, and somebody said, okay, I'm going to implement it, and that's how Hadoop happened, right? Again, the technology is open source, but not all the data that Google has. So these companies don't have any risk in open sourcing the tools, and because people can't easily take that data that they have and apply it to in their environment.
So as Mohammed, as someone who uses a lot of these open source projects for Glassbeam, what exactly are you trying to do with them? What problems are you solving at Glassbeam?
Good question, Greg. So one of the challenges that a lot of product manufacturers have they don't know how exactly their product is getting used in the field. So let's say if you are a medical equipment manufacturer like Siemens or GE, you have sold an X-ray machine or a CAT scan machine to a hospital, and then unless a problem happens, you never hear from the hospital. So you have no idea how exactly that machine is being used in the field. It turns out there's a ton of valuable information that these machines collect on a daily or even hourly basis. Every time, let's say, a CAT scan session takes place, that data is getting collected. It's a very valuable piece of information. Now, it turns out that information typically is in a very unstructured format. So even if you got that data, it's very difficult to do any analytics on it to figure out, okay, how many such operations took place in a given day, right? What buttons the doctors pressed when they were using this. So what Glassbeam does is basically takes all this unstructured data, analyzes it, gives you the tool to do analytics on that data, which typically you cannot do with the tools that are out there actually. So we kind of take unstructured data from a variety of equipments, and then what we present to our user tools that let them do any kind of analytics on it to get insight in terms of how the product is getting used, what features users like, who are my top 10 users. I mean, they can do a wide variety of analytics that was just not possible before Glassbeam came on the scene.
So a lot of people say that talent is kind of the biggest constraint for building a business or helping a business to grow. And a lot of times even the choice of the tool or the framework or whatever you're using in your company is determined by the people that you're able to hire. As someone has a technical background, but then who also has an MBA, I mean, you're someone who's very rare in the Valley. How has the MBA helped you with your technical to strengthen your technical background out in the job market?
So the MBA actually brings a business perspective. So anytime you're trying to pick a technology, one thing that helped and the way MBA helped me is whenever I'm looking at something, I'm also trying to figure out, okay, what's the short-term cost? What's the long-term cost? How is it going to impact the company in the long term? So I'm never picking up something just for the sake of technology. Same way when we are building something, again, you're thinking long-term, okay, how is this thing going to help the company? Whether short-term, long-term, right? What's the ROI on this thing? Typically, before the MBA days, as an engineer, you're just thinking, okay, what's interesting to work on, right? How can I make myself more valuable? What are the other fun things I can do? Without paying that much attention, how is it going to impact the bottom line of the company? How is it going to impact my top line, everything? And that's where the MBA helps.
Mohammed, thank you.
Thank you for having me.